It's okay. But real men wear pants.
I come from a country where everyone are totally comfortable with being hopeless. I've got no idea where I'm going with this. The point is, I'm not American, and I also really love Darwyn Cooke's New Frontier. Just look at how happy all these characters are. However, behind these happy, old-timey-wimey smiles is a story that features a harsh representation of the 50s. In one decade, the US went from seeing itself as a force for good in the world to becoming so obsessed with looking for enemies within that they lost their pioneering spirit. As a result, on one hand, New Frontier is a harsh critique of America's ongoing problems with hatred and persecution by deconstructing the nostalgia for 50s America, but it's also kinda reconstructive in the way that it reasserts a sense of American hope and romance by following the transition of Golden Age to the Silver Age as America enters the Kennedy era. This ambiguity between whether it's a love letter to a bygone era or an allegorical reflection of contemporary concerns is something Darwyn Cooke himself consciously refused to elaborate on back in the day. So the purpose of this video is to meditate on this by analysing both the comic and the animated adaptation. This is also my second version of the script. I had to rewrite it from scratch to be more holistic, so enjoy, you filthy animals.
Let's just say I set out to scare criminals, not children.
The journey New Frontier presents is a spiritual one, where the soul of a country is forced to update what it wants for itself, its people, and the dream it should work towards, because in the 50s, it's hit a point of stagnation and regression. Congress demands the JSA to unmask and turn themselves in because McCarthyism has deemed superheroes an un-American activity. So, Civil War, actually the JSA get along, so they calmly choose to retire altogether. Thus, over half the community followed. What's left are three groups of characters, the disenchanted dreamers.
I don't think it's that simple. Diana's an Amazon who's become an American. She's trying to make sense of her convictions.
Superman and Wonder Woman signed the loyalty papers, but that was for a different America, because as Diana argued, after World War II, America kept believing they're right, even though now they're actively hiding the bad stuff, like when they didn't let her speak about what she saw in Vietnam. So the both of them, despite being accepted, they can't accept what the country has become.
Oaths don't mean much here. All I see is suffering and madness.
However, some were never even accepted in the first place. Jean represents the immigrant. He arrives, learns through the culture, and contributes like everyone else. But in this climate of suspicion and hatred, he hides in fear. In what should be in contrast, John Wilson is a black American who fought in the Korean War, but despite his service, his family was burned to death by the KKK, and the racist authorities pinned it on him, despite witnesses. So, he seeks justice himself. The two Johns represents how not everyone has freedom in the supposed land of the free. McCarthy's America is rooted in a deeper pre-existing culture of hatred. Now it's just expanding. As a result, people like Flash and Batman, superheroes with clean records, their freedom shrinks because they haven't signed up. Obviously, vigilantism is illegal, but the legal issue isn't whose rights are being trampled on by these masked men. It's about how everyone's rights have devolved to the point that the government can take anyone they want.
You're government property now, Swifty. We're gonna find out what makes you tick.
New Frontier presents this era of America not as one working towards something, but one obsessed with power. The power to keep power.
You trust me, and I'm an alien.
Yeah, but...
It's because he looks so different, isn't it?
Well, you have to admit...
Listen, you've seen the power he has. He could leave this place anytime he wants, but he hasn't. That should tell you something.
Resultantly, all these groups paint a crisis of faith, where why would anyone be loyal to a country that doesn't want to be loyal to you? As the comic literally says, how can America hope to preserve freedom around the world when she can't even guarantee it to millions of her own children? This is the conclusion many reaches when John Wilson was cornered, hung, and burned to death because of this little fucking brat. He wasn't just a dude. Thematically, he was the spirit of America, as John summarized. This John Henry, for example, a true American hero, like the fathers of the revolution, he fights alone for the oppressed against an evil the rest of the country ignores. America isn't gonna change, so most of the characters give up.
I thought I could make a life for myself here among you humans.
I've always used my power to help people, but now the government's on my tail, hunting me like a criminal.
There's just too much hatred here, too much ignorance.
You just saw what happened to John Wilson. America needs more people like him. But where are they going to come from if our government keeps acting this way?
Too much mindless conformity. I'm leaving.
I'm quitting. Giving it up. Breaks my heart, but there are people I love and I don't want anything to happen to them.
There's also the added line in the comic where Flash brings up how last year there was 4,000 unsolved crimes, so the government devoting their resources to stop him shows they've totally given up on him. So he's given up on America. However, you know what's whack? Out of all the characters, the idealist is Batman. I know, right? In the comic, it's revealed he and Superman staged their public fight so they could work together with someone on the inside changing the system from within, and someone on the outside. I can't stress how much I love this. It's like the anti-Dark Knight Returns. As a result, as Clark loses faith as he's not changing anything, Batman reassures him that things will, once they're needed. This moment, in accordance with Diana's similar moment of counseling, where she argues America is an ideal, not an administration, then pushes Superman to lead them back to a place of compassion, emphasizes the role of heroes. To imagine change, people will need to be inspired too.
Ever since McCarthy came to...
McCarthy. He's no excuse. Whatever party, whatever administration, there'll always be boogeymen like him. We need our heroes to stand up and show us what this country is supposed to mean.
The censor is here, this incomprehensible Lovecraftian being here to kill everyone, so those in uniform, those in masks, those who weren't born in America but found a home, must rediscover the will to work together in the name of survival.
Today there are no Democrats, no Republicans, no hawks, no doves. Just the naked simplicity of an absolute. Mankind's survival.
The story is Mass Effect, it's what Game of Thrones should have been, it's people overcoming their petty political differences in order to defeat an incomprehensible threat that doesn't care. But it's also used as a plot device here to rediscover something lost. The American dream may have always been selective, but New Frontier argues its spirit contains the potential to be inclusive because the passion it stirs is rooted in a sense of responsibility, the need for the individual to build communities.
America was founded on the notion that a person should be free to follow his or her destiny. But we can't do that if we're living in fear of our own government. We need to reclaim this country for free men and women everywhere.
Superman in the comic literally says he will no longer stand by anymore as people are persecuted, regardless if they come from outside or within. This great renewed union thus rediscovers the old American dream, but not pointed towards land, but within the self, where the excitement of new discoveries comes in the form of social progress, new pursuits in science and technology, a new sense of personal liberty where everyone has the right to be a pioneer of this new age, regardless of who they are, all wonderfully encapsulated by John F. Kennedy's 1916 New Frontier speech, hence the name of the comic. There is this image I do wish they kept in the film where a black kid stands next to a white-only water fountain alongside a caption saying that some believe there's no longer an American frontier because all the battles have been won, which highlights just how complacency is not only something to be overcome, but it's actively what's trapping the present. Anyways, the comic and the film are both great. There are some differences in terms of cutting things out for the 70-minute DC anime movie runtime. The three big ones for me was obviously removing John Henry's perspective. They kept the post-death report, so his death is still the low point of the story.
He was caught by a mob and killed.
But by losing his perspective, you lose the sense of visceral reality it brought that helped make the story's message powerful. And also we literally lose the only black guy in the story.
Probably the part I missed the most would be the John Henry arc that's in the book. We did get to touch on it in the film, but I think that was probably one of the more powerful parts of the story, and we just simply didn't have the room to address it.
Secondly, Batman is entirely missing in the comic's climax. He and Lex just sends more planes for the attack, which is lame. I love how in the film, not only is he present in the final battle, but he's the man with the plan, bringing in Ray Palmer as opposed to Adam Strange. And just look at them smiling on front page news, how cute. Finally, the losers, the challenges, the 60s versions of the Suicide Squad are all cut and turned into small references because most people probably don't know who they are. And they're all really there to be given bittersweet send-offs to emphasize the death of the old American imagination. In fact, immediately after the opening with the losers, we're hit with, where had all the heroes gone? In America after the Great War, many would claim we didn't need them anymore. On the surface, life was better than ever, but if you ventured closer, it became clear that a great deal of this was a facade. And then it goes on. Soldiers symbolized America's heroes in a time of war, but in times of peace, the battles that must be fought are more social, more imaginative, thus require new heroes, heroes of the imagination, if you will. Imagination is really the key word here. The purpose of encapsulating all these stories and struggles under the branding of Kennedy's New Frontier is to use its memory as a map for your own imagination. As Darwin Cooke said, with Kennedy, it was never the man that impressed me, it was the ideal he embodied. In that way, he typifies the spirit that charges the superhero stories of the Silver Age, not to be taken at anything face value, an impossible ideal that points up a better way to live. New Frontier is about a crucible burning away everything but the truth of a deeper collective American consciousness that can be used to glue everyone back together. In other words, it takes great bravery to go to new places, but now that bravery must be applied with getting along with people that are different. That's the ongoing relevance of the old pioneering spirit. It was relevant in the 60s, it was relevant in 2004, and it's still relevant now, I'd say. Fuck you if you disagree with me. I'm joking.
Beyond that frontier are uncharted areas of science and space, unsolved problems of peace and war, unconquered province of ignorance and prejudice. I'm asking each of you to be pioneers towards that new frontier.
But what about Hal Jordan? I put all the main characters into neat groups, but Hal is a bit of an outlier. He is a patriot who fought in the Korean War but isn't enough to kill anyone, except for one dude, which traumatized him. He's not a minority and neither is he an outlaw. Hal Jordan, much like his ring, is about shining a light into the story by acting as the most explicit and followable symbol of the pioneering spirit. As Darwin Cooke explained, I think it's really ironic that when Danny O'Neill and Neil Adams took over Green Lantern Green Arrow, Green Lantern was made up as the fuddy-duddy, the conservative, and Green Arrow was the hip guy who was in touch with what was going on. And if you look back to 1959 to 1960, Hal Jordan is a radical young hip character compared to the fuddy-duddies around him, and I sort of played to that notion with him as a character. He would have seemed really liberal during Korea, but he would seem quite conservative in 1969. He was young, he had a cool job, he had a great gimmick and outfit, and I think he was the one enduring character out of the Silver Age that really represents the space race and the American spirit.
A lot of people think I'm a coward because of what happened in the war.
You never fired at those North Korean planes.
Maybe I just didn't believe that what we were doing there was worth killing for.
Did your ring tell you about that?
You are no coward, Hal Jordan. To you, all life is precious. And this ring is far too powerful to fall into the hands of someone who doesn't understand that.
Thus, to an extent, Hal Jordan is a great symbolic opposite of the center, where instead of being an apolitical threat that will kill everyone regardless of their partisan positions, he captures an adventurous individualism balanced by a sense of respect for everyone else from all walks of life, united by a single dream of looking further and going further together. I'm going to end this video with the reveal that Darwin Cooke is not American. I guess it's not much of a reveal if you already know that. But there is this quote I want to end this video on that really reveals everything that he wants to say with the story. In Canada, the cultural differences were encouraged because of the variety they bring to our lives. I know that's very broad what I just said, but we've never attacked another country, haha. I'm clearly in love with the promise of America and I love the things that I think have made it great, but at this point in time, there's a great deal that you guys should be asking yourselves, because I'm not sure you guys know who you are anymore. Only somebody naive would think that Americans have never tortured somebody during times of war. I'm sure during World War II it happened. I'm sure it's happened many times, out of necessity and on a personal level. But when you get to a point where you see that this is something that legislation is being massaged to accommodate, and where facilities are being used for that kind of thing, that's the point where you've got to stop and go, whoa, wait a minute. Who are we? And what do we stand for? Because we put a certain message out there. I think this is why New Frontier resonates with me. It's an outsider looking into America with sincere interest to make sense of it. And I also really wish I didn't pick a quote that long. Simple doesn't mean meaningless. New Frontier is simple and direct, but I argue its true content isn't its story. I'd argue the content is its sincerity. Its simplicity means it's very easy to feel what he feels, to see what he sees. A New Frontier.
Right now, baby, didn't work for us, didn't work
also want to commend the film's absurdly amazing voice cast. You got Dale Cooper as Superman, Angel as Green Lantern, Xena the Warrior Princess as Wonder Woman, Bob Morton as Martian Manhunter, Carl Jenkins as Flash, and everyone sounds period perfect. And at their prime, they all could have played the characters in live action at one point. So it's just, oh, it's so satisfying, so satisfying.